President Tinubu approves mandate for Office of the Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Action, expands Green Economy Committee membership.
Nigeria and Belarus signed 5-year action plan to strengthen partnership in agriculture and food security.
Saudi authorities release Nigerian pilgrims arrested for not carrying Hajj permits.
By this, we said we must advise, we must sensitize our pilgrims to always be carrying the Nusuk card.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on food security and improving food affordability.
Well, Nigeria is a country blessed with fertile land and abundant resources. Yet the country struggles to feed its growing population.
Indeed, Victor, with almost 250 million Nigerians, the essence of life is a fundamental human right. Yet for many Nigerians, access to nutritious and affordable food remains a daily struggle.
And this explains why one may have to ask, what are the underlying causes of food insecurity in the country? How can we increase food production and distribution to meet the demands of our rapidly growing population?
Well, the current administration, on assumption of office last year, declared a state of emergency on food security, thereby introducing policies, agricultural innovations, and international partnerships to ensure food availability and affordability for all Nigerians. You know, Victor, this is not the first time, you know, food security, if emergency on food has been declared in Nigeria. Remember the Shagari era, Green Revolution, Feed the Nation and all that. Well,
and it doesn't seem like we're getting it right.
Yeah,
just yet.
Exactly.
And that's why people keep asking, what are the challenges? Seeing as the prices of foodstuffs are, skyrocketing at the moment. Certain food, items have gone out of the reach of the common man. And that could lead to malnutrition if it already hasn't led to it. The foods are available, some say, but the affordability is a challenge.
It's all about the cash, and well, Nigerians are saying they can't afford to buy some food items. Now, let's take a look at some of the prices of foodstuffs over the weekend. A small rubber basket of Irish potatoes is now 17,000 naira. Same quantity of sweet potatoes is about 3,000 naira, while some same size basket of tomatoes is 15,000 naira. The smallest tuber of yam in Abuja is about 3,000 to 4,000 naira, Victor.
And the big question is, how can we improve food availability and affordability for all Nigerians, particularly the lowly and vulnerable? Well, join us as we explore the challenges, opportunities, and solutions shaping Nigeria's food security landscape. Our panel of experts will provide insights and analysis. We will also, hear from farmers and experts as we delve into this issue of food insecurity and all that is around it. So, join us, stay with us as we explore these issues. I'm Victor Azu.
And Victor, it does not only affect the vulnerable ones, it affects all of us, like salary earners too. When you come to think of it, how can you buy a basket of potatoes for 17,000?
We're part of the lowly Nigerians.
Of course we are. Now let me lend my voice to welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria today, the very first for the week. And in the course of the program, we have our newspaper review. Mr. Chukwudi will be here, and Mina Daniels is here with the morning news. I am Jumma Yusuf. Hello, Mina.
Good morning, Jummai and Victor. I can't wait to hear what people will have to say about this very hard terrible situation.
Exactly.
Good morning, Nigeria. Here now is the highlights of the morning news. In furtherance service establishment of the Office of the Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Action, and to bring clarity to the functions of the office within the climate and green economy ecosystem, President Bola Tinubu has approved the terms of reference for the pioneering office of SPEC. A statement by the Director, Information and Public Relations in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation says the Office of the Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Action shall be the lead negotiator on climate-related matters on behalf of the Federal Government of Nigeria, reporting directly to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The lead negotiator on carbon markets and management initiatives on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, among other responsibilities. The President has also approved the expansion of the membership of the Presidential Committee on Climate Change and Green Economic Solutions, PCAGE. The Presidential Committee on Climate Action and Green Economic Solutions will be inaugurated in July. And President Bola Tinubu has also approved the appointment of Dr. Nkiruka Maduekwe as the Director General, Chief Executive Officer of the National Council on Climate Change, NCCC, in interim capacity, pending the confirmation of the appointment by the NCCC Supervisory Council. The President has also approved that Dr. Maduekwe, 39, who holds a Bachelor of Law degree, a Master's degree in Environmental Law and Policy from the University of Dundee, UK, a Doctorate degree in Law from the University of Hull, UK, is to serve as the co-chairperson of the Intergovernmental Committee on National Carbon Market Activation Plan. President Tinubu says the appointment is in accordance with his commitment to actualize Nigeria's green industrial vision, boost investor confidence, and unlock sustainable economic value through various climate finance instruments. And President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of Ibrahim Abdullahi Shelling as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Finance and Stakeholder Engagement in the Office of the President. He is seconded to the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, where he will handle all matters related to climate finance and stakeholder donor relations. The President also approved that Mr. Shelling is to assume the position of the Secretary of the Intergovernmental Committee on National Carbon Market Activation Plan and serve as a member of the Presidential Committee on Climate Action and Green Economic Solutions, as well as the Presidential Steering Committee on Project Evergreen. Mr. Shelling, who holds a master's degree in business administration from Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, has served in leading roles across multiple financial institutions and was head of business development for the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company PLC before his appointment as Senior Special Assistant to the President. The President has also approved the appointment of Olamide Fabuji as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Technology and Operations, Office of the President. He will oversee the digitalization of the new open procurement process and cross-departmental procedural optimization initiative under the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat. Mr. Fabuji served as a special assistant to the President on economic matters under the previous administration, and recently the technical advisor to the Director General of the National Council on Climate Change on Policy, Research and Strategy. He is a policy analyst and computer scientist. The appointment takes immediate effect. The Nigerian pilgrims recently arrested by the Saudi security operatives in Makkah for not carrying a Hajj permit called Nusuk card have been eventually released. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria coordinator in Makkah, Dr. Ali Tanko, who confirmed this to NTA News, however, affirmed that possession of the card is compulsory for all the pilgrims.
They arrested 3 of our pilgrims in one instance, and then another 4 in another instance. We had to struggle to get them out after taking them out of Mecca. By this, we said we must advise, we must sensitize our pilgrims to to always be carrying the Nusuk card.
Nigeria and the Republic of Belarus have signed a 5-year action plan on strengthening partnership in agriculture and food security. The signing of the agreement took place in Minsk, the Belarusian capital, during a working visit by the Nigerian Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari. This partnership, the minister says, will foster significant growth and development in agriculture, enhancing food security for both nations. The minister also says the dedication to the collaboration reflects shared vision for a future of sustainable agricultural development and mutual benefit for the two countries. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission has cautioned Nigerian citizens traveling through Switzerland regarding the possession of laser pointers at their airports. This advisory follows a recent detention of Dr. Andrew Etsowagan at the Geneva airport for carrying a presentation pointer in his hand luggage after the pointers had been banned in Switzerland since June 1, 2019, of which he was not aware of. And that's the news. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue with Victor and Jummai right after this break. Good morning.
Fellow Nigerians, it is a good thing to be Nigerian. Good news! The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is organizing the National Fabric Competition, the hashtag One Nigeria Unity Fabric Competition. The aim is to create a fabric design that would be indigenous to Nigeria, showcasing our culture and unity. This competition is looking out for creativity, concept, and the message of unity. Open to Nigerian youths, both male and female, between the ages of 15 and 25 years. And guess what? You can apply wherever you are in the world as long as you are Nigerian. The winner of this competition goes home with a cash prize of 25 million naira. Are you sure I will not apply for this competition? Submission of entries close on Sunday, 30th of June 2024. Submit your entries by sending pictures of your designs via email to unityfabric.ofl24@statehouse.gov.ng, making sure you capture all parts of your designs. Together, let us unite Nigeria!
Drink that, don't go for it. Yeah. Life na highway. Me, I just stay for my lane. Full speed ahead, oh, no limit in my way. God don't make them my back. Nourishment to give me spark. So I go shine my shine and I will go for it. Go, go, no limits, go for it. Go, go, drink that, don't go for it.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge.
My people, today now.
Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better,
Which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Epic is better than
Give me a Risco tomato
Instead, I go give you imported tomato.
Be like saying that people like you, the wicked our country people.
You see this Risco
Richiku
or Nachico, eh?
Then take correct natural ingredients, make them. If not made in Nigeria, like a Risco, get many benefits. It help grow our economy. And job plentiful, nyafo nyafo. And when you put them inside mouth, it's sweet and it dig the one for.
Buy made in Nigeria. Buy a Risco product.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, for pure love.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
As the month of Dhul Hajj approaches, this is a special time to remember Allah and spend extra time in good deeds. This is a unique opportunity to sincerely repent, get closer to Allah, and combine acts of worship in a way that is impossible at any other time of the year. Furthermore, giving charity attracts great reward, especially in these first 10 days of Dhul Hajj. The world is facing global economic crisis with millions on brink of starvation. You can make a huge difference by supporting and sponsoring this year's Hadaya sacrificial animal to needy communities in our country. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "For every hair of the Hadaya, you receive a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." Free Hafiz scholarship programs for youth is one of our development projects. With your support, we can build conviction in the heads of Muslim individuals and reunite as community to benefit humanity. For donations to actualize these novel initiatives, Non-Violent Peace Initiative account number 1771660076, Bank Polaris Bank, or Guaranteed Trust Bank account number 0457070109. Management Announcer.
All right, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next for us is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okoli Ubaja is seated here in the studio. Good morning, Chooks, the boy.
Good morning and welcome back to the show.
I've
not seen you for almost 1 week.
A little bit under the weather.
I know. These days you could actually be forced under the climate. It's understandable.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in more than 48 hours.
Yes. You want to take over mischief from who now? Victor, good morning.
Good morning.
It's time for newspaper review.
Okay,
Please.
let's go to the leadership newspaper. We're beginning with it. Above the masthead, we have Gaza. Nigeria backs Biden's ceasefire proposal. Find the details on page 16. We're beginning with the leadership newspaper. You can see it on air. Yes, you can see it on your TV set now. And Zenith Bank, Adiora Umar G, new tenure as GMD sparks optimism. Details on page 2. And just below the masthead, NAS vows to protect 650,000 barrel per day Dangote refinery. You find the details on page 7. June 12, Atiku Obi Kwankwaso to address democracy rally. Details on page 25. And the headlines in the leadership newspaper: electricity tariff, life-saving services threatened in teaching hospital. With riders, we pay between 2.5 and 4 million daily to discuss CMD's lament. Stakeholders seek special tariff regime for health sector, and Lagos government switches hospitals to own power plant. And a side piece of the picture story you see there, Nigeria's trade surplus rises by 79% to 6.52 trillion naira in first quarter. Details on page 23. Niger Delta ex-agitators beg for increase in amnesty stipends. Find that on page 22. Northern elders seek National Pastoralist Commission. Details on page 6. Nigeria, US discuss climate funding for green industrial push. Details on page 7. Let's quickly go to the national economy and above the masthead. FX reforms vital for Nigerian foreign investment. That's coming from Fitch. It's on page 5. Nigeria, US lawmakers demand Biden's secure release of Biden's executive. Find the details on page 5. And just below the masthead, Nigeria's staple food prices surged by 141% in 1 year, with riders' purchasing power of Naira dwindling and 5.9 million Nigerian children in severe food crisis. You can see the picture story there. There is food, but it is the cash that is the problem here. And at the bottom plate of the national economy, Deep Blue Project as catalyst to Nigeria's maritime development. You find the details on page 18. Vic?
Right, and that takes us to the Vanguard, which has a picture story just at the center of the front page. NAS delegation visits Dangote refinery. Of course, that details President of the Senate, his deputy, and a few others, as well as the governor of Lagos with Alhaji Aliko Dangote at the refinery, perhaps yesterday. All right, experts see danger around minimum wage battle. That story is on page 5, and it has several riders. President NAS will determine our next action. That's according to Labour. Alleges conspiracy between governor OPS. ITUC writes Akpabio for labeling strike as act of economic sabotage. And governors, senators, reps should also earn 62,000 naira minimum wage. That's according to Mbaka. Interesting. Basic education, why UBE Act must be reviewed. That's according to Senate and UBEC boss, other stakeholders. That story can be found on page 8. Above the nameplate, airfares prices skyrocket, distort travel plans. That's on page 9, inevitable. How Jonathan, wife, others forced Wike on Rivers. That's according to Edwin Clark, page 12. And then you come to the bottom of the front page here. Gunmen abduct 30 passengers in Nasarawa as bandits attack Catholic church in Kaduna, abduct priest. You get details of that on page 6. And then to some sports. Benin versus Nigeria. It's win or bust for Super Eagles. Okay. And finally, Mr. and Mrs. I'm sure Chukwudi would like to hear this.
Yes.
You gave me 7,950 naira for a pot of soup worth 10,000 naira. This is not your first time. If you think because your name is Patrick, you are a patriarch of tricks. My name is Patricia, the teacher. That's according to Mrs.
Mrs.
Are you saying that doomsday married calamity?
Seems like it.
I say you're a mischievous man. You never agree with me.
Mr. sounds like you most of the time. And,
you think you're the only one who knows cartoons, eh? Listen to this one. Nigeria Air Project fraudulent remains suspended. That's credited to the aviation minister, Keyamo. And they have this caricature, I think it's actually Keyamo they have in the Ministry of Aviation plane they have there. Beside it, the caption, there's one chance in the air too. You can't beat us on our shows
you can't beat
in terms of creativity.
Exactly.
But the alarm is that Nigeria's staple food prices reportedly surged by 141% in 1 year. Victor and Juma, I went to buy tomato 3 days ago. What my friend Conscience calls the dustbin, you know, the
rubber
dustbin
basket
measurement, the rubber basket, was sold to me for 14,000 naira. I paid 28,000 naira for two rubber buckets. Does it make any sense?
When I come across tomatoes these days, I tell the people, tell them we are no longer eating tomatoes for now.
Are you serious? What is the substitute for you? Because we want to know. We, the rabble.
Must you eat stew?
You know, purchasing power of the naira dwindling. They say 5.9 million Nigerian children in severe food crisis. Do you know that I'm beginning to see people? Million. I am beginning to see people. I saw those kind of images during the war. People whose heads are beginning to get bigger than the rest of their body. That's malnutrition. We have to really sit up and do something fast, you know. And at the end of the day, when you visit this on the stalemate over minimum wage, you say, hey, we still have some, not crisis, some
unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Yes, let's euphemize it. Unfinished business ahead of us, because these lingering problems are again going to affect the rate of the economic recovery we all are praying for.
Exactly.
So the earlier organized labor, government, the legislators, they are of course part of the government. They sit together and iron out this minimum wage wahala. I think is going to help us a lot. But food prices, you don't want to get into that territory.
Well, you know, during campaigns, a lot of things are said. I remember the president saying that he was going to give us a living wage during the campaign. And what Nigerians really want is harmonization of salaries. Harmonize the salaries. So the burden is not too much. The agencies, some are collecting 800,000 and some are collecting 30,000 minimum wage. But if you harmonize the salary, the burden will be less.
Do you know, I was thinking over the weekend that body language in all of these also matters. Yeah. If members of the National Assembly, for instance, had said, we want to shed 2 million from what we take home at the end of the month, Nigerians would begin to feel, hey, they are empathized with us. They are part of this. They want to bear it with us. So what you do matters a lot too in resolving these matters. After 1 year, for instance, the lawmakers could go back to, you know, and it's not just the lawmakers, the shedding should happen across board.
Indeed.
It will help the people know that everyone is in the same boat concerning this matter.
High food prices, electricity tariff.
Yes.
It's just becoming overwhelming.
But at the end of the day, love of country supersedes whatever our opinions are.
Exactly.
You must not jettison anything that means future goodness for this country. Because when it is not good for the country, it won't be good for you.
Indeed.
What Chooks?
Let's dilute just...
what are you doing?
In a moment, let's dilute
I'm letting you go.
the gloom a bit with sports. Were you disappointed by the outcome?
Let me say this.
Of the Nigeria-South Africa game.
Let me say this. I know I'm a patriot. God knows I'm a patriot. But there are certain things you do not gloss over. The crop of players we have now, we have younger people which an earnest search will reveal and place us in a better position to tackle our
We need to go back to the Westerhoff
You keep on seeing those people, you keep seeing. I'm not going to mention names. We have young men that can play for Nigeria.
These are young people too.
The Arsenal model should become everybody's model.
They are already made. Let's look for hungry players who want to make name.
Young people who have something to prove.
Yes, who want to make a name for themselves.
It's okay. I hope that...
you want to employ
Chukudi, you have to go.
I hope that Coach Finidi George is listening. Okay. We'll begin our conversation just after this break. Please stay with us.
A good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order. It is said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30-second video and a picture of the garden which indicates its location to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so
Impossible.
toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better,
Which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Are you married? I'm single. You are single? Can we name the best thing about Christmas holiday?
Love.
My favorite Christmas carol is Dash.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Name a gift parents would most likely give to their children for Christmas.
Food.
Shoes, money.
Christmas decoration.
Vacation.
A vacation. A vacation. Toby.
Village.
All right, survey says.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
This na Go TV, and now for here you fit watch better football from Mbappe. Ball wey Kane use the TNet, Ronaldo. And all the big boys we go follow drag the who go be Oga of Europe. Now who go become the Baba of Europe? Watch all the 51 games live on Top Super Sport from GoTV Jolly to Super Plus and GoTV Stream. Euro 2024 live. It goes sweet on Top GoTV. Love it.
You're welcome back. And to begin our conversation on food security and improving food affordability, let's take this background report by Abdul Salam Jibril.
Recently, the cost of food has been a concern for many households across the country as the prices of basic food items continue to rise. According to the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), in March this year, food inflation stood at 40.1%, with experts insisting it simply translates to more pressures on pockets of Nigerians. Some other experts, however, admit that this trend is not just a Nigerian issue, but a global one, affecting people's ability to access nutritious and affordable food. Available data from the United Nations World Food Programme (WFP) reveals that 26.5 million people across the country is projected to face acute hunger in the June to August 2024 lean season. This is a staggering increase from the 18.6 million people food insecure at the end of 2023. The WFP blames conflict and insecurity, rising inflation, and the impact of the climate crisis for the staggering statistics. Other analysts note that since Nigeria is subject to periodic droughts and floods, it has had an adverse impact on agricultural output and increased the vulnerability of populations, especially in rural areas. Last year, amidst rising food prices, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food insecurity in the country, a move aimed at boosting agricultural productivity and reduce the high prices of major staple foods in Nigeria. The development, no doubt, is in line with the government's short, medium, and long-term strategies towards addressing the challenges of food affordability and accessibility in the country. Similarly, at the National Economic Council meeting in February this year, steps were taken to ensure food security and put an end to economic challenges confronting the nation, including making fertilizer available to farmers and the establishment of agro-rangers to tackle insecurity in farms. In April, the government released 42,000 metric tons of corn, sorghum, and millets to ameliorate the suffering of vulnerable households. There have also been calls for action against dollarization of locally produced commodities like urea, which some experts note is impacting negatively on fertilizer prices and agricultural productivity. What more should the government do, particularly subnationals, towards ensuring food security and improving affordability of food across the country? This and more will form the crux of discussions as guests speak on food security, improving food affordability in Nigeria, shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Abdulsalam Jibril, for that background report. And joining us here in the studio to discuss food security, improving food affordability, is architect Kabir Ibrahim, President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN.
Thank
Pleasure
you
to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we have also been joined here in the studio by Dr. Ken Ukoha, National President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Thank you very much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much. And Good Morning Nigeria.
You know, Victor, we have all regulars today on the program. And also joining us here in the studio is Ni Akisuju, Chairman, Independent Media Policy Initiative. He is also a financial and investment analyst. As usual, thank you.
It's a pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
And also joining us from Kaduna is Professor Yushau Ango, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship, and he's also the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Kaduna State University. It's nice to have you on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Juma says we have regulars all today. Regulars who will come to discuss an irregular problem. Yes. Well, food prices, you know, seem to be at an all-time high. You know, some say it's inflation, others say it's food insecurity, and some others say the food is available, but just unaffordable. So let me begin with President of the All Farmers. He will be able to tell us whether food is available or not. How do you see the challenge? What's your reading of the situation on ground?
Well, thank you very much for bringing this topic up. The question of affordability goes to food security, really. Because let me define what food security actually means. Food should be available, affordable, and nutritiously balanced for there to be food security. A nation will have food security if it has all this. Now, at this time, this is June, we have always had more difficulty in accessing food because a lot of what has been produced before has gone into the market and bought over, and we are waiting for new harvests. Now, because in Nigeria we depend very much on rain-fed agriculture, this has been a problem that we have had for a very long time. Peculiarities like this now began in earnest in 2020 when we had COVID-19. It made the food system, the global food system, to suffer. It was all over the world. Everybody had problems with the food system, to the extent that in 2021, if you remember, the Secretary General of the UN convened a food system conference all over the world. And there were many attempts to ensure food availability for all people, and then to go towards food security for all nations. And we had SDGs 1 and 2 that clearly spelled out the issue of hunger and poverty, and that every nation was supposed to work towards that, and Nigeria is not an exception. Over time, we have had so many windows, so many attempts to bolster the food system in Nigeria. Very often, we had very good policies, but the implementation had been a problem. I would take you back to 2016, 2015 and 2016, when we had the agriculture promotion policy in Nigeria, which had very lofty deliverables to the extent that I think the CBN keyed into it and came up with what it called Anko Boroa program. And when it was launched, it portended a very good effort, at least in rice, even though it was conceived to be for rice and wheat. I remember I was one of the people who escorted Mr. President then to Kebbi State, and it was launched. Somehow, I think along the line, the CBN did not implement it very well. It was not as if it permeated the system and reached every farmer who really had a farm.
But was it supposed to be a CBN thing?
Well, the CBN always intervened at that time in so many other aspects. As an architect, I know that they intervened also in physical development, where they were doing centers of excellence, providing hostel accommodation, academic facilities in institutions and many other places. To the extent that I think if you look at the cumulative intervention even in that sector, it was far more than what the Ministry of Works and Housing had. So it was not surprising that they intervened in agriculture in the way that they did, with trillions of naira. But even when it began, we cautioned that for institutional memory, it should be through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. It didn't happen, but I thank Nigerians and commentators for coming out to share their opinions on it. And now I think the CBN is changing tactics, because recently, I think it gave the Federal Ministry of Agriculture 2,100,000 bags of fertilizers to give to farmers, free of charge.
So what is the issue exactly?
Now the issue, I am going back through memory lane to tell you that a lot of efforts have been made. But there are problems that constitute or are inimical to food production and productivity as a whole. Now, chief of these are the challenges of, I started with COVID, insecurity, flooding, poor implementation of these policies, and corruption. Nigeria should have no business getting into this mess if things were done properly. Now, the purchasing power of the Naira recently has compounded the issues, because so many people will tell you that if you go to any of the farmers market here in Abuja or even to the market, you will see food items, but they are not readily available, affordable to people who earn wages for hard work. Now, this is very serious, and this is why I think you can even see what is going on. The labor is asking for a minimum wage of about 400 and something thousand, even though government is coming forward with a small fraction of it. Now, what about those people who don't earn wages?
Yes.
What is going to happen to them? And we all buy from the same market. So the problem is going to be exacerbated by even the wage increase. Because we know in this country, anytime, and this is something empirical, from Udoji to date, anytime there was a change in a movement upwards in the wages of people, there is the corresponding inflation, which is not even commensurate with with what people get. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah,
you give people what they ask for, in the end, they suffer more. So Nigeria's situation is such that we have to think properly on how to solve the problem sustainably. Yeah. Don't do one-off interventions and think that these things will simply peter out. No.
Yes, talking about one-off intervention, you've mentioned so many interventions by subsequent governments, and like the Operation Feed the Nation, the Green Revolution, and that was even then in the 70s and the 80s. Mr. Ken Okoa, I'm bringing you into this conversation now. Nigeria has the potential to become one of the producers of agricultural produce in this world that can even contribute to the GDP. We hear that it contributes 23-point-something% to the GDP. Let's have your own opinion on food security in Nigeria and affordability. Affordability will come after that, but the food security itself, the president declared emergency on food security last year, and the United Nations has said that by 2024, more than 100 million children, because that is the age gap, the older people are less than the young ones, will be malnourished without food. What is the situation? What is happening that we just can't get it right? What are the challenges?
Thank you very much, Umar. This morning, when I looked at some of the national dailies, and particularly the national economy, which almost happened like a kind of coincidence, as if they were preempting what this, Good Morning Nigeria was going to talk about. I was almost shedding tears. And on Friday, specifically, some of my colleagues met, and we were talking about this same subject matter. Is food available? Let's move from availability to affordability. And I think that one thing the government has not done at this point is to answer this question. Is it available? At a point like this, I would have thought that we should have some data. The Ministry of Agriculture should have come up with, some kind of data, some kind of statistics, giving Nigerians information about availability of food. giving us statistics. Where are they located? Now, the second point is this, that we have concluded that food is not available. Let's not, I mean, we should stop deceiving ourselves.
Let's not mince words.
It is not available. That's the truth. Because if you look at what is available and juxtapose it with the population, you will find out that it is not there. It's not there. We are traders. We know what is going on in the markets, in the local communities where you bring up this. Are the farmers producing? The point is that most of them, like architect talked about, insecurity caused them to go back. When you are farming, I mean, with one leg in the farm and then one leg off, you can't help the country move in terms of food security. It's not possible. That number two, and this is the real problem we have on ground, which is namely that there were no, would I say, there were poor preparations. Let me say no. Let me not say no. There were poor preparations before the removal of subsidy. And this is exactly what is kneeling us down right now. And because of that, the prices of commodities went up. Why? Of course, transport, number one, was hit off. The transportation sector was knocked off. And therefore, if you are carrying one trailer load of tomatoes down from the north to the south, come on. If you were paying about 250 before the 250,000 naira for that truck before the subsidy removal, of course now some of the transporters are collecting about 600 to 650,000 naira. Now you look at that cost, and then you look at what is happening on the roads, the corrupt practices and all of that. You also look at the fact that you are passing this poor farmer who is moving this commodity from one state to another, is passing through some local governments where you have hoodlums in uniforms. I'm sorry to use that word, hoodlums in uniforms, and they are not smiling at all. And you will pay. So as soon as you pay, you will add it up to your costs. And that's why we are where we are.
Okay.
And I think there are a lot of other things that are, compounding the problems that we are having. Take, for instance, in February this year, in fact, let me start from August last year, 2023, government came up when they saw that the food prices was, moving up, and we cried out. And government said, oh, we are bringing out palliatives. In fact, the government the vice president announced that there will be 5 billion palliative fund to the various states, including 100,000 bags of rice for each state. Yeah, that was, and I want to ask, how many states this day, where we are now, how many states, you can count them, that have doled out those palliatives? At a point again, government said, oh, we have 42,000 metric tons of grains that we are moving out. We are pushing out. And to help the poor, the common man on the street, where are these 42,000 metric tons? Where have they gotten to? And, promises. And once government says this, the people pick it up.
All right. That inspires hope, and then maybe dashed along the line. To an extent, I can relate with what you say. I mean, basic economics teaches me that if you have a lot in store, you know, it drives prices down because of there's not a lot of competition. What you have, but when it is short, because of the competition, intense competition, prices go up. I don't know if Niyi agrees with that.
Of course I do.
Demand or competition?
Because it's price is a reflection of the forces of demand and supply. So where we jump from availability to affordability, it shows distortion. Once a product is available enough to satisfy demand, the price will find equilibrium. So it is no longer about affordability. So what we have at this time is actually the fact that the relationship between demand and supply is skewed. So you have less supply that is going into the market. And of course, historically, there have been so much talk about what could be possible for this. I never had a situation, perhaps so many years ago, where Nigeria had an equilibrium circumstance around food supply. You know, it had always been a situation of much demand, you know, outstripping supply in the marketplace. And over a long time, we've had higher concerns for high costs of food, which had manifested in high inflation rates, food inflation rates. And up to now, perhaps even for the past 12 years or thereabout, food inflation had been a major contributor to headline inflation, so much that the average Nigerian household spend about 56% of its earnings or income on food. So it shows the relationship, you know, between food and food demand and other forms of demand in the household. Now, what that substantively tells us is that food is the most important common denominator in the Nigerian household, which also requires fixated attention, either at the level of four tiers of government. So we are here today with 40.6% of food inflation, the highest in about 2 decades. And of course, there are so many issues around that we can talk. But fundamentally, I think it's structural. Structural because, one, we have a tier of government that is responsible for the biggest contributing factor to production, land, the states. Through the land use decree, the land use act, the states are invested as custodian of land. And to that extent, it means that it is what the state determines, how and what the state determines the use of the land for, that we would be able, you know, to use it for, exploit them for. Then when you drive around Nigeria on the highways, you see land on your right and your left, and you keep on wondering, why are we, you know, challenged with this issue of with food security? Nigeria is a country that should not be complaining about food security, you know, because we have that. See, without fertilizer, without this other contributing factor, if we are doing our organic engagement with our land, we have enough land space. So what exactly is happening that we are not exploiting our land? I think I can relate with that. Recently, the federal government, I think sometimes last year, in the wake of creating new policies, deploying new policies to assuage the aftermath of the withdrawal of subsidy, said it committed to engaging 500,000 hectares of land. You know, but these 500 hectares of land were going to come from the states. As at May, when we did an audit, just about 16 states, you know, had made commitment, you know, to that to that engagement, and it was what exactly is wrong. It is not about you bringing capital. It's not about you making other forms of contribution. It is just to allocate a piece of land to this project in your state and let the federal government take it from there. it's an emergency thing, and it's not. I don't think it's about you losing, you know, by forfeiting the power over that land, you know. So that is one. Then two, we have long abandoned the rural area. We keep talking about farm gates, farm gates. Farm gates are situated in the rural areas, but there has been no connection between the rural area and the city gates, as it were. You know, you need to have a functional network of roads between the city, the farm gates, and the rural area. It is. I am from a rural area. I am from in Ondo State. I have farms, and I know that for a long time, the road leading to my heritage farm, you know, we could not even link the road from the farm to the village itself, the village settlement. Not to talk of now moving it from the village to the city, you know. So sometimes you harvested your product, your crops. You found it. The best you could do was to get motorcycles, you know, that could only take it in retailer package from the farm to the village setting itself. And then you have to wait for like another 1 or 2 days or 3 days sometimes to take that from the village to the nearest urban center. And the nearest urban center is not the eventual receptor of the products. Now you have the wholesaler gathering it at that point in time to move it from the nearest urban center to Lagos or Abuja and other urban markets, as it were. Also becomes difficult. In those days, you've lost more than 40 to 50% of the products. Now, the wholesaler would have to aggregate, you know, the losses on the costs, you know. So by the time it gets eventually to the markets in the urban center, the price would naturally increase, you know. So yeah. It's a multi-dimensional challenge, as it were, you know. Yes. But I don't think it's impossible to attend to with critical-minded initiative, with commitment, and a challenging disposition to resolving this matter.
Yes. You know, you've talked about the demand and how it fuels the price of food, and states actually not contributing toward the efforts of the federal government, because Ken Okowa talked about 5 billion palliative to states, 100,000 bags of rice to states. You keep hearing to states, to states, to states. You wonder what the state is doing to complement what the federal government is doing. Now let's bring in Professor Yushau Ango into the conversation, and now we are going to go to leave the federal government for what it's doing, which we cannot say it is not doing enough, but what are the states doing to ensure that they complement the effort of the federal government? We have arable land all over the states. We were just traveling to Akwanga over the weekend, and one of my colleagues from the east was saying, look at land, Jumai, look at land. Can you imagine if we have this land in the east, what we can do with it? Let's have your take on that.
Let me, before I discuss or say something about what the states are doing or what they are supposed to do, let me also comment on a few of the, or at least comment on some of the things that have been mentioned earlier. The issue of food security, what it is, and whether or not there are sufficient food, and then the fact that the president had declared a state of emergency on food, and then the palliatives and all of that before I come to the states. You know, if you look at it, the chairman of the All Farmers Congress has made mention of something, the seasonality of the supply of food. We are going to suffer from the reports also we have listened to. We are going to suffer, or we are going to have about 26 million people who are going to be food insecure, or at least go very, very hungry between June and August, which are the lean months according to the World Food Program. Now, this is because the harvest has not taken place. Much of what is available has been already used. So that is why, the matter of demand and supply is obvious. It's very clear as a factor for us to have this food inflation at this moment in time. So this time between June and August is very crucial, because by July, August, in some of the north central states especially, you find that they will have started harvesting some of their products, and I think that will come to the market, that will reduce the pressure. Now, the chairman also made mention of the fact that much emphasis is actually on wet season agriculture. And, if we are serious about actually ensuring effective and food security and stability of prices, then we must consciously work towards ensuring that we have availability of irrigation-based agriculture for farmers, as many of them as possible in Nigeria. Now, the few of them that attempted to do irrigation, we know the various policies that came into play, especially the policy of removal of fuel subsidy and the policy of exchange rate, merger of exchange rates, that actually came to affect their abilities. I know as a farmer, at some point I was spending 8,000 naira every day to buy fuel just for irrigation purposes. Now, of course, when the fuel increase prices came in, you can imagine what it is. Now, so many farmers I know, especially farmers of tomato and vegetables around Kura, Bunkure, and other places in Kano, I know they could not afford this fuel. So that means with that problem, there would be, that's why we are seeing what we are seeing now in terms of prices of over 100,000, 150,000, for tomato. So that is what we are seeing, and that is what we have. Now, coming to the issue of, declaring a state of emergency on agri, I want to implore on government, when you have a state of emergency, let us know precisely what is going to come out of it. It's not just declaration. There must be some things or steps that must be taken to ensure that this state of emergency is state of emergency. Now, in terms of palliatives and distribution of grains, different states, we have seen them. States have done, some of them have managed it well, some have not managed it very well. That is what came from government. But I can assure you that that intervention, even that pronouncement that 40,000 metric tons would be released, actually impacted on market. So prices were moving on around May, around March, around February, March, but then they were somehow stabilized because of this policy. But even at that time, people were projecting that maize, for example, will be 80,000 naira per bag, 100,000 naira per bag. We are now already seeing 80,000 or plus already. So what that means is that whatever government has probably has been depleted. If they have released the 40,000, they don't have any more, so they don't have the muscle, to actually be able to contain or control the price. They have done it to a small extent, but they have not done it sufficiently. Now, coming to the state governments, what the state governments and the lower strata of governments are supposed to do, local governments, is to ensure that, like Nee said, they have access. They provide access roads. Instead of constructing, if you like, bridges, in capitals and all that, is to go and actually construct roads that link and link the farmlands, to the urban centers. That will ease this process. Then there is also the policy. There are also some levies, all sorts of levies that are being given. Anytime you are moving, any day that is a market day, you find that there will be revenue officers, stopping every vehicle, collecting all sorts of revenues. And then, unfortunately, you find road safety there, you find police there, extorting money, not actually ensuring safety. So all of these actually have impact on these prices. So I believe the state governments can do a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ango. Well, in going round, first round I'll call it, we've been able to establish a few things. Some talked about poor infrastructure in rural areas leading to farms and all of that, food insufficiency, the role of states, inflation caused by removal of subsidy, among other things, and then insecurity. But let me get back. Having all of this to deal with, where do we go from here? How do we begin to resolve the issues and stabilize food prices?
Well, you see, people have painted a gamut of realities, not fairy tale. Everything that has been said here is real. We can touch whatever is there. All the policies we have made over the several years that even he mentioned have talked about how to get around many of all these issues. But we have not implemented. I will start with what Prof was saying, that when you intervene by releasing from the grains reserve at the time of inflation, you bring it down. And you know, you remember the CADEP, the arrangement that specified or stipulated that some countries within this hemisphere in Africa should dedicate 10% of their annual budgets to agriculture. It was there. The Maputo Declaration is there, and there were about 4 pillars that you needed to address, one of which was storage. And you know, in Nigeria in 2008, between 2008 and 2009, up to 2010, we attempted to expand our storage base, for instance. The storage capacity in Nigeria is about 1.3 million metric tons. Now,
but what's in it?
Listen now, if we were only able to lease 42,000 metric tons and we said that was all, then what happened? Why did we spend all that money to create those storage capacities? And we didn't have 1 million, or we didn't have 800,000 metric tons. Why? Some people did not implement what we were supposed to implement. 2, as was also said, agriculture is a rural vocation. He says he lives in a village, no road, and everybody in Nigeria starts from living in a village. We are all village people. We all have our roots in the village. There should be roads leading from place of production to place of need or use. This is what happens in the first world. I will tell you this. Over a long period of time, we used to attend the Royal Agricultural Show in Coventry. And we would stay in London, and we would go by rail to the location. From Paddington Station, there is a rail connection up to Manchester, and this Stonehenge is along the road, along the way. And you look left and right, you see flush green with animals grazing, and you have cottage houses and farms. And rail allowed for easy transport of whatever was produced to Manchester and back to London. This is how it is done. If, like Ken said, people take something from, let's say, a market in my local government to Lagos, and they use trucks, and they pay multiple taxes, and they pay high transport costs, and they are traders, how will they not add up all this expenditure to the commodities that they are taking? What we should do is to make available transport, specific transport for goods or produce. Now, these 2 things I've said. Because of climate change, we should learn to use even our groundwater. We should optimize the use of our dammed waters. We should be able to produce year-round so that food will be available. We should encourage people to invest more in agriculture, and we should tell the subnationals that agriculture actually takes place in their domain. It doesn't take place here in Abuja. Whatever the federal government is doing is just creating the enabling environment for agriculture to thrive.
In the States.
The actual thing that will help agriculture is work, serious work in the states. Okay. I'm sorry to tell you that it is only now that I have seen so many governors coming to pay homage and uploading what the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is doing. And we have had the singular honor of escorting Mr. President to Niger State, for instance, when they were launching mechanization and all that. And I was there when Mr. President was telling about 4 governors were there, you know, most of them from the North Central, to support one of their own to do this. And I remember him telling them that we should all model him, especially now that there are challenges in the food system. We must be able to do what people like him are doing, to be able to help to fill the basket of Nigeria. Now, not only should we look at the 230 million or thereabout people in Nigeria, we must look at the countries all around Nigeria, because the market is open to them and they have even more to offer to the traders. When you take maize, the Prof was saying maize, a bag of 100 kg is about 80,000, 85. I live in Kasana. There's about 85,000 there. Or that. If you move that to Nigeria Republic, it would be more. So the temptation is that Ken and his people would want to go there because they will get more. So Africa is one market. Nigeria is the so-called giant. How do you think what we produce will just be limited to here? I agree with so many of the speakers who said that, look, the laws of economics around demand, the elasticity of it, should hold. I very much agree with that, but I will disagree with them when they tell me that food is not available. It is available, because if you can see, recently I've seen some bulletin where I think the president gave an order that you can now import paddy, so many things can be imported so that you process them and you have more food here. But ask realistically, is it competitive to even import those things and process in Nigeria? What is the landing cost of even milled rice from India to Lagos? How much will you sell it in Abuja? Can it compare with what is produced here? So, essentially what we must do is that dictum, even though, many people don't seem to understand it, is that we must produce what we eat and eat what we produce. There is no country in the world that depends on importing what it eats, especially when you have a large population. But you are talking now, 2024. In 30 years, the population of this country will approach 400 million. So if you have problems now, what problems would you have then? And you are building a country for the future generations. These things that we are complaining about are easier now because of what our forefathers did. What are we doing now to make it easier for our children and great-grandchildren? So this problem is our problem, is the Nigerian problem. It's not, if you say it's government, I believe there is a disconnect. What is government? Who is government? We are government. Yes. We are, especially now with democracy, we are the people voting these people into power. We are bringing them into office. So we ask them the salient questions that, look, you are not doing enough. That is why we have this. Do enough. Wake up. Tell the truth to each other. Tell the truth to everybody. We are all Nigerians. We have to all wake up. Yeah. If you look at the question of insecurity that prevents people from going to the farms, for me, if my son was involved in this and I know it, I would simply tell the law enforcement agencies. Otherwise, I'm not helping myself, I'm not helping my neighbors, I'm not helping his or her younger brothers or sisters.
All right. Yeah, you've said quite a lot of things here, and you talked about preparing, things for the future generation. But still, these future generations are not ready to go to the farm, And let's bring in Ken Ukwa into the conversation now. Government alone cannot do it. In other developed countries like in Europe, we see it contributes a lot to the GDP, the farming, the ranching and all that. Now how can we bring in the private sector like you are, to invest in improving food processing? That's one. Storage and transportation infrastructure itself to boost agricultural sector.
No, thank you very much. I'll go straight to the point, and I will give some kind of recommendations. Number one, we shouldn't deceive ourselves. This is an emergency period as far as this country is concerned vis-a-vis food security. We shouldn't be ashamed. Let's do some emergency imports for now. And I saw, what was like a kind of executive order last week. And eventually they were saying it was leaked out. And I perused through and I saw that, look, these were very beautiful ideas, lofty ideas. We shouldn't be ashamed of any of these things. Let's make sure that these things can be implemented, at least for now. Number two, if we are importing, we should also begin to understand that we shouldn't be dancing around with naira dollar volatility. The exchange rate volatility. First, a situation where it takes you about 18.4 million naira to clear a container, a 40-feet container, it doesn't make any sense. Once you bring it, like Acte say, once you bring it, the price will also be up there. Therefore, I recommend government for now as an emergency step should not allow customs to be, using dollar equivalents for clearing of consumer products, at least for now. Number three, I want to see a situation where the governors, at the regional level, the governors and the local governments, well, they are not there.
They're non-existent.
Unfortunately. Okay, the governors, I want to see a situation where they will also take some steps. Like what is happening in Niger State, where they have AVADEP, the Agricultural Value Chain Development Program, now on ground. And the government said, look, 10,000 hectares of land for cultivation per local government. And if you look at the 27 local government, that means you are giving about 270,000 hectares of land. And this is not speech by mouth. This is not mounting. They have followed it up critically with strategy, with documentation, and with actions. And you see the tractors and all of those food inputs and all of that. I have seen this myself. I am part of the process. In fact, we are leading in the market component.
As the private sector.
Yes, as private sector. And that's why your question is also being answered. Number four is that at this time of emergency, government can also begin to lay embargo on all of these local government taxes and all of that are destroying and destructing, movement of commodities that are removed. Bringing up corrupt practices and all of that, and hiking the prices of commodities. Lay an embargo. Federal government can do that, and I think that could be done. You cannot be be anchoring on, the concept of IGR, and then killing the people. You want to increase revenue, you want to generate revenue, and then the people are dying of hunger. Number five, I want also to see a situation where the Federal Ministry of Agriculture calls, humbly calls for a stakeholder meeting. The farmers, the traders, other private sectors, the processors, the manufacturers of food items. Let's sit down and find solutions. You can't do it all. You are not a man that knows everything. We can push in a little of our practical knowledge on the streets, and then that will help. That will help.
And that has not been done.
It's not done. It's not done.
Right.
I'm sure he is here. He is not done. We are looking for that. In fact, I personally have written a memo on this.
Okay. Let me get me involved again in all of this. Is there a role for the federal government in this matter? Yes, we know that land belongs to the states, but is there a role, policy, for the federal government, maybe through the Ministry of Agri, for instance? Can we halt, at the moment, export of food as a temporary measure, and perhaps get the FCCPC to rein in prices, maybe a bit, among other things that the federal government can do?
Thank you. Let's start from FCPC, Federal
Competition and Consumer
Protection Council Commission. A major challenge for the Nigerian economy is that we still don't have a free market economy. We have an economy that is controlled by pockets of association, interest association in the space. So you actually have an oligopoly in place where a number of people come together as association and determine price. So we are yet to have that free space where supply and demand determine price, which is supposed to be the primary function of those two mechanisms. So to that extent, I expect that the FCPC, I think I learned sometimes that they were going through markets to see if people were actually artificially determining prices. That should be the role of the FCPC. Now about the federal government, unfortunately, it's a constitutional thing. The ownership of land, which I know Nigerians as a people, we are tied to our land. So there's a challenge in relationship, either at the level of the community, at the level of the individual, at the level of the subnational. There's so much, there's what I call a confluence of conflicts in that space that needs to be unknotted, because individual ownership itself is challenged. Don't forget that when you get your CFO, is 100 years, 100 years rent, actually. Some people are just buying land now that had actually expired, some that only have 20 years, 30 years. We have that challenge to meet down the road in another 20, 30 years. We have another level of conflicts at that level. But for the federal government, I think going forward, in an emergency, as Doc had noted, should actually start acquiring land, at the state level. It has the right, especially if it's considered the Federal Highway Act. The Federal Highway Act empowered the federal government, especially when it's going to build, to acquire land. And as architect noted, London to Coventry is our model. The shoulders of the roads, if the federal government takes 50 meters to the right, 50 meters to the left, across just about 100 kilometers of road, you can imagine what square meters of land will be available for agriculture. And to my mind, one, because it's near impossible to deliver a 20 kilometers rural village to urban center road, for instance. We may need at this point in time to acquire those kind of lands and, of course, involve the private sector to develop. And you use the basic comparative advantage, which, for instance, I know in so many parts of the north central states, yam is very versatile. Production of yam is very versatile. In so many parts of northeast, northwest, and all that, rice and other forms of grains. In the southwest, you also have a comparative advantage of what crop products can be produced. Now, because you are you are farming on the shoulders of the road, one, you avail yourself opportunity of easy access to the road, and of course easy access to the marketplace. That is one. Then two, issue of insecurity would also be attended to, because easily accessible area for law enforcement agencies. Now, I am saying this because of the emergency situation we have. It does not remove the fact that we still need to develop our subsistence farmers. I usually depart from the argument of mechanization. Our culture is subsistence farming. And we need, if we are going to grow into mechanized farming, we need to build on subsistence farming and in most cases promote subsistence farming into mechanized farming. It will not just happen, you know. So there's also a need for that. Then I think there should be this strong focus on agriculture to make it a more buoyant segment of the economy. Over the last 15 years, the Nigerian agricultural sector had only contributed just about 26 at best, 27% of the national GDP. It is not good enough because it is agric that defines us. Either during by our independence, in the immediate post-independence period before we discovered and of course started exploiting crude oil and all that, it is agriculture that defines our economy. So if agriculture defines our economy, we should be talking of agriculture that dominates the GDP. So and by the time we are saying that, it becomes a prosperity that is anchored on agriculture. And to that extent, we'll not be talking about food insecurity. No?
Yes, indeed. We see countries like Ecuador and, contributing collectively farming, and even that at a scale of 3,000 feet above the ground, and then it's collective and it contributes to the economy. Let's bring in Professor Yushao into the conversation, but it will be after the break. We'll be right back.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
The lights are on and the stage is set for dreams to take flight. Who will be the next idol? Watch Nigerian Idol live performances every Sunday at 7 p.m. and you get to decide by voting for your favorite contestant. You can vote via website, mobile site, or by using the My DSTV or My GoTV app with no stress. To vote via website or mobile site, simply visit africamagic.tv/Nigerian Idol. Click on vote, register, and then enter your details and a password of your choice. It's easy and it's free. You can also get AWOOF votes for your favorite Nigerian Idol contestants. All you have to do is download the My DSTV or My GoTV app and you have more voting power at your fingertips. Visit the website for more information. Voting opens on Sundays after the live shows and closes every Thursday at 8 p.m. Remember, vote for your favorites each week and you get to decide this year's Nigerian Idol.
Nigerian Idol Season 9 is proudly sponsored by Techno, Stop at Nothing, and Biggie for every moment.
Nigeria means unity. Nigeria means freedom to me. Nigeria means greatness to me. Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible. As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress. Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And it is the woman that does that.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Before we went on the break, I was trying to bring in Professor Yushao Ango into the conversation. And still, I'm going to come to you, and to ensure food availability, others are saying that states should be able to implement some measures, like irrigation infrastructure, agri-development policy, storage facilities, support for small-scale farmers, and the words on every Nigerian lips is if local governments, where all the lands are situated, can get autonomy and be able to use the funds that is coming to them from the federal government, do you think it will be a game changer in agriculture?
Like you said, local governments are actually where all the lands are, and if local governments can have the opportunity, to have all the funds allocated to them normally, monthly, and then directly used by them, I believe it will make a lot of difference. However, I believe we are making progress in that direction. The president is in court, and we pray that we see the outcome of that to be positive. Now, in addition to that, all government at all levels are also contributing. Like we mentioned the issue of states, but the federal government also does something. They have this scheme whereby they build roads, to link up with the rural areas. I've seen quite a number of that. I've seen it in my local government. But unfortunately, I think some people are hijacking it somehow, because I've seen roads here in Kaduna, I've seen roads in Kano, inside the town, which are also constructed. And I believe those roads should have been for the rural areas. But, I also want to comment on what Dr. Okoha said. I don't want to miss this opportunity because, like you said, we are regular, we have met, we have discussed so many times, we have agreed, we have disagreed a number of times. I want to agree completely with the position that we should go for emergency importation. That is not a solution at all. I don't subscribe to it. I don't believe that is a solution. I believe, this is not conspiracy theory. I believe what food security is that you are able to feed yourselves. The moment Nigeria, reach a point whereby we have to depend on importation for the staple food, then we can be rest assured we'll begin to see a lot of conditions given to us, by those countries who are supplying food to us. It now becomes an issue of aid, given to us. And it will come with a lot of conditionalities, including accepting all sorts of things, social things, values that do not agree with our own values. I will not subscribe to that. I agree with Architect Kabiru that we have food. We actually have food. But, the policies we have made, and of course the impact of right from the COVID-19 era, when the COVID-19 impacted globally on food prices, globally. This is across the globe. Go anywhere and you find out that that's what has happened. But in addition to that, we have taken some steps this year, in the last 1 year, where those steps are impacting on prices. We cannot remove those things from what is happening, but there is food. One thing we have is that there is food in Nigeria, because imagine, after COVID, after closure of the country for so many months, and global economy, for so many months, we came back. We didn't have hunger in Nigeria. We didn't have hunger. Even now, we don't have hunger. What we have is affordability. And I don't think the solution is just importation. I will not subscribe to importation. I beg to disagree on that count. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I get the point on when you say what we have is affordability. What we
There's
have
no
is a lack of
hunger.
affordability.
Yes.
If you can't afford it, well, there's
Of course
hunger.
you're hungry.
I don't know, architect. I don't know if you can piece this together for us. You see, if you say food is available, most foods are perishable. If they're available and people cannot buy, they will go bad. And so, why are people still not dropping the prices, if only to save them from going bad?
Well, you see,
if they're available.
The point here is there is a difference, or a sharp difference, between food sufficiency and food security. Okay. Food security should be looked at as a global thing in the nation. I will give you the example of the United States, for instance. There is no challenge of food. Most people can afford food. If you take a small country like the Netherlands, not bigger than Kano, their income from agriculture is only second to that of the United States. Yes. There are only 55,000 farmers there. They export what they have. I like what Prof has said. At this point in nation building and in our quest for food security in Nigeria, we should discourage outright importation. Rather, what we should do, and I would like you to take this as something that is well thought out. Food security in a nation that has 3 geopolitical zones should not be global. We should look at Southwest, for instance. What is staple? Mostly staple there. Get all the states to come round to scale the production of that. Go to the Southeast, do the same. Go to South, North Central, Northwest, do the same. Don't say rice. Rice globally in Nigeria should be produced optimally. There is a disconnect. There are some places in Nigeria where rice is not staple. Don't say wheat. There are some places it is not staple. So if you look at it from that perspective, you will be able to impact more. Definitely you have to import some things. In Nigeria, there are things that we import. I mean, you can't do anything about milk, for instance. There is a shortfall. Until recently, we had also a shortfall in beans, in cowpea. We had a deficit of about 500,000 metric tons. So now we are closing that gap. But you know, in spite of that gap, we are also selling to other countries out of necessity. Because the borders are not just there, you know. In Africa, the borders are very, very slim. Izuma should know, she has lived all her life in Borno, in the northeast. Some people come in to Maiduguri, whereas they are actually of Chad extraction, and you can't really define that. And they have relations from across the borders. So there is no way you can say they will deny those people food or anything. And it is everywhere in Nigeria. Even in the southwest, there are so many borders that, you know, with Benin Republic, with so many places that you have to do this. So, in a nutshell, what Nigeria should do is look at this as everybody's problem. Yes, local governments should have whatever is due to them. Why not? I mean, I come from Faskari. If you give the local government chairman only money to pay salaries and order, nothing to do anything, how are we going to see improvement? The local government should also be able to contribute. It should coalesce with the state government to improve the living conditions of the people. It's a big mistake. You know, before now, when I had my brother graduated as an engineer, and he was the head of works of my local government. He worked. He was happy working there because there were funds there, and he could do rural roads, he could do many things in that place. And our people are 99% agrarian. So they needed to take whatever they produce to the market closest to them. So we must do that. We must give local governments their due. And we must also approach the issue of food security with the geopolitical zones in mind and what is staple. Ken will tell you where he comes from. Is rice staple? Is the potato you are talking about staple? Probably is cassava and yam. So whatever quantity of rice you give a child who is used to eating swallow, but the person will feel that they have not eaten. In Nigeria today, what it is that Jume will tell you this, whatever food you give children here in Abuja, they still ask for Indomie.
Yes.
But this Indomie is, I think, is luxury.
It's not grown
It's
anywhere.
luxury.
It's luxury for them. So don't say that you must bring, allow people to import Indomie.
Noodles.
At a point, it was even almost the price of half a bag of
So,
rice.
so,
30,000
so reality
naira.
has
Yeah.
made it such that, I had this conversation, I overheard you talking about potato, that there is hardship even in peeling it and all that.
Yes.
And therefore you don't take potato because you have no money. Now, when I used to be the president of Poultry Association, I brought a person from Canada, a very thorough scientist who said every grown person or every human being should take at least 1 egg a day. The people have been arguing about cholesterol in egg and all that. 300 milligrams of cholesterol in 1 egg. There is good and bad cholesterol.
Yes.
You need it. Today, the poultry industry is almost moribund. People like Ken will not eat egg. And they say there is cholesterol. No, there is no cholesterol. He has no money. That's it.
Mr. Ken, you
But
don't have money.
doctors won't agree with you.
No.
Doctors won't agree with
But
you.
see, the majority of people know this. I mean, we are not, this is empirical. Nee will tell you, even from the perspective of business.
Okay.
If you are not, if all your faculties do not work optimally, there is no way you can be able, you will be able to do even what you do here. Scientifically, can you ask us all these questions if you had an empty stomach and if you are not balanced, if your brain power is not there? So we must be able to really assert ourselves in bringing about food security in Nigeria, and by taking action.
Yes, by taking
Not
action.
talking.
Like the president said that no Nigerian will go hungry. Now let's talk about how we can reduce food waste. There are places in Nigeria that produce orange, banana, like Benue State and all that. And you find that at times it is wasted. It just goes to waste. They just throw it away. How can we build factories, the states build factories, to produce like juice that we buy from other countries, which we don't even know the content of the juice, and it can even be exported outside the country, Mr. Ken?
Yeah, I think under the Obasanjo administration, we had some kind of import substitution. And at that time, I'm not sure we had this kind of volatility in exchange rate that we have today. And because of that, a lot of people went into massive production, local production of, fruit juice.
Like veg
or exactly.
Yes, veg fruit,
so
I
they
remember.
came up, and you see factories started coming up, and people were making money out of that. And the quantity of wastages in the middle belt at that time that was reduced, reduced drastically. And Nigeria became an eye fingered on, if you want good fruit juice, fresh, genuine, go to Nigeria. And in fact, we started exporting to other countries within the West African coast. That could happen. But where you have an economy that cannot be predicted, an unpredictable economy, that even the environment alone is chasing some factories away. So how? How are you going to invest in that? I know many companies. Let's move out from food a bit. Even in terms of, furniture. They woke up. Shoes, they woke up because of that kind of policies. Now, that brings me back to what I was talking about. We are in an emergency situation. And therefore, like Architect was saying, there is a shortfall, whether anybody likes it or not. There's a gap. So this gap, what can happen?
Has to be filled.
It has to be filled up. So emergency import, that's exactly what we're talking about. There is in trade what we call quota. You bring that, you do an analysis of what Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture come together, give us a data, let us know this gap and see how we can import that. Government can even take it up. Import that now. And you will see the price, like he was saying, economics. It drop
all right.
because of availability.
We're running out of
naturally.
time fast. I don't know if Niyi agrees with the idea of emergency import just for the moment to bridge gaps.
I would have agreed if Nigeria does not have the capacity to fill the gap.
Capacity, but is it available?
You see, it's once the first thing is to acknowledge if you have the capacity. When you acknowledge that, then what should be in place to exploit the capacity? And I think that is what informed the president's position. I can tell you from what we do that the president was placed under huge pressure, to open the borders for emergency importation. But he had to, he refused to adopt that position simply because he thought we have capacity. And the fact is we have so many numbers of farmers that can fill the gap in Nigeria. What should be the relationship between the federal and the state and of course the local government? That should be the issue now. You're talking about waste. The state does not have any particular physical role to play in all these things. It's just to enable the environment. Naturally, private capital has a way of gravitating to opportunities. Once the opportunities are there, they will go there. So you could drive into my farm at any point in time. You will know that that's an opportunity for off-takers. So if you have subsistence farmers, and usually there is neighborhood subsistence farming, so if you get to a community, it's likely that all the farmers are on the same axis. So it's easy to do off-taking, So we are producing orange.
Yeah.
We are producing this.
Banana, mango,
it's easy for the
everything.
off-taker, for the processor to come in and sign off-taking agreement with those farmers because he knows at the end of the day he can move his vehicle easily into that farm and evacuate whatever he needs to evacuate. So it's processing farm.
Yes.
It's the enabling environment that we need.
Yes, enabling environment. Let's bring in Professor Ishao into this conversation now. In 1 minute, can you tell us the long-term solution to food availability in Nigeria and sustainability itself?
What we need are consistent policies that support the small-time farmer. Yes, the farmer cannot afford mechanized agriculture ordinarily, but then there should be opportunity whereby they can hire. I believe I have not seen or not read much about the Niger State arrangement, but I've seen it when they launched it. I believe if they have farms, and equipment at local government level, which are available, to the farmer, to hire, that would be good. Then government should do everything to encourage, especially the research centers we have. Let them bring out better seeds. Let us bring input. Now we said federal government, central bank is giving Federal Ministry of Agriculture fertilizer to distribute free. How will they do it? What will be the mechanics? What will be the arrangement? How will it get to the farmer, not the political farmer? Now these are the kind of inputs that the farmer needs. He needs better inputs at cheaper price, subsidized. He needs to be guided. He needs, that issue of having people who are able to guide him of the latest technology. That is no longer available, most times available. We have research centers, but they are just there. They're not being funded enough. I believe if we do that, to support agriculture. And then every effort should be done by government, and this can be done at federal level, to ensure that we have irrigation facilities that are channeled to enable all year-round agriculture. For lack of time, I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Ishao Ango, for your input into the conversation. You agree and disagree and come to a solution. Yes, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship and Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Kaduna State University. Thank you so much for your time on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Dr. Ken Okoha, National President, National Association of Nigerian Traders, thank you so much for coming, as usual.
Thank you.
Ni Akisuju, Chairman, Independent Media Policy Initiative. He's a financial and investment analyst also. It's been a pleasure, as
Media
always.
And policy.
Policy, Media and Policy Initiative.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much for coming. And Architect Kabir Ibrahim, President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN. Gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure to have you come to Good Morning Nigeria so that we can dig into issues and find solutions. I hope those that matter are listening and can take from this conversation. Thanks so much for watching Good Morning Nigeria today. We appreciate you. I am Jumoy Yusuf.
Right, and I'm Victor Azo. Let there be food. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, let there be food.